Hello, dear friends. Today, I want to share with you a story about one of the most beloved actors of our time, Leonardo DiCaprio. We know him for his unforgettable performances in films like Titanic, Inception, and The Revenant. We know him as a man who has devoted his voice and wealth to protecting the planet. But behind all the glitz of Hollywood, there are quiet stories of Leonardo's kindness that most people never get to see. And this is one of them. It was a warm afternoon in Los Angeles. The city was buzzing with its usual rhythm, cars honking, people rushing along sidewalks, and tourists pointing at tall buildings. Leonardo had just stepped out of a small environmental meeting, one of those gatherings he often attends quietly, away from the spotlight. Unlike many stars, he prefers a simple life whenever he can, walking around the city in plain clothes, blending into the crowd. That day, instead of calling his driver, he decided to take a stroll. It was the kind of walk that clears your head, the kind where you observe the small details of life that so many people ignore. That's when something unusual caught his eye. Outside a little cafe on the corner sat a woman in her early 30s with two children, one a boy around 7, the other a little girl who couldn't have been more than 4. They were sharing a small plate of fries, the kids nibbling slowly, as if trying to make the food last longer. The mother kept glancing inside at the counter, her hands fidgeting with a nearly empty wallet. Leonardo noticed the way she smiled at her kids, trying to hide her worry behind a brave face. But anyone who's lived life with open eyes can recognize that look, a look of quiet struggle, of a parent carrying more weight than anyone should. Minutes later, the waitress brought the bill. The mother's face froze. She reached into her bag, counted coins, counted them again, then checked her purse one more time. The children watched, confused. One of them whispered, "Mom, is something wrong?" She forced a smile, shook her head, and said softly, "It's fine, sweetheart." But her eyes told another story. Leonardo paused. In that moment, he could have simply walked away. No one would have noticed. But kindness is a choice, and he chose to step forward. He walked up quietly to the table, placing a gentle hand on the edge of the bill. Looking at the waitress, he said in a calm, steady voice, "Put it on my tab." The mother's eyes widened. "Oh no, you don't have to," she began, embarrassed. But Leonardo gave her a reassuring smile. "Please," he said. "Take care of your kids. That's what matters." The waitress nodded, recognizing the man instantly. But Leonardo gave her a subtle shake of the head, silently asking her not to make a scene. The mother still didn't realize who he was. He looked like any ordinary man in a cap and plain jacket. The kids, however, were curious. They looked up at Leonardo with wide eyes. The boy asked, "Are you a superhero?" Leonardo chuckled. "Not exactly," he replied. "But I think your mom is. She's the one taking care of both of you every single day." The mother's eyes filled with tears. For a moment, she wasn't just a struggling parent. She was being reminded of her strength, something she hadn't felt in a long time. But Leonardo didn't stop there. After chatting with the children for a while, making them laugh with silly faces and little jokes, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope. Slipping it discreetly into the mother's hand, he whispered, "Just until things get better." Confused, she opened it later when he had stepped away. Inside was enough money to cover groceries and rent for a month. More than the amount, it was the thought, the compassion of a stranger who cared. Finally, as Leonardo stood to leave, the mother looked at him closely. Her breath caught. Recognition flashed across her face. "You're Leonardo DiCaprio," she whispered. He simply smiled, pressed a finger to his lips, and walked away without waiting for thanks or recognition. The children, too young to fully understand, waved at him happily. "Bye, Mr. Superhero," they shouted. He turned back once, waved, and disappeared into the crowd. Later, when the mother told the story to a friend, it slowly spread online. What touched people the most wasn't the money, it was the humility. Leonardo could have made it a public act, could have used it for publicity, but he didn't. He did it in silence, with no cameras, no headlines, and no expectation of reward. And isn't that what true kindness is? Not the things we do when the world is watching, but the moments when no one is looking. When it's just you, your conscience, and another human being who needs help. Friends, Leonardo DiCaprio may be one of the biggest stars on earth, but in moments like this, he shows us that greatness isn't measured by fame or wealth. It's measured by compassion. By the quiet decisions we make every day, to step forward, to lift someone's burden, to remind them that they're not alone. Perhaps that's Leonardo's real legacy, not only the unforgettable movies, not only the awards and speeches, but the human stories that never make it to the headlines. Stories of strangers who walked away forever changed because, in their hardest moment, someone cared. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson for us all. We may not have Leonardo's fame, his fortune, or his influence. But every one of us has the power to stop, to notice, to help. Because to someone, even a small act of kindness can mean the world.